to the Hole in the Head Moto Podcast, burning time, space, and money in the noble hobby of fixing old vehicles. In this episode, a Brit bike in pieces and a Spanish legend. Here's Andy and Blaine.
How are you doing?
Andy, I'm good. Let me get the food out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. If you gotta eat, you gotta eat.
No, I'm just having some chocolate chips for dessert. So,
hey, do you bake at all?
No.
Okay, I assume not. But so I bring that up because I do, but I don't like bake. Like I don't experimentally bake. I have exactly 3 recipes that I'm fine with eating if they were all the desserts that I'm going to eat for the rest of my life.
All right, stop here.
They're good.
Stop. We're going to start the show right here. I'm going to ask you about baking because
we've already started. Yeah, we're already in.
Oh, okay. All right. We're already in. So, Andy, I'm eating chocolate chips and you're being pretentious about your baking and I don't even know what it is.
It's not so my point is that like everybody should be able to make their own thing that they're craving, I think, right? Like you want a pizza, go make a pizza. If you want a chocolate chip cookie, you should make a chocolate chip cookie. Like don't let Chips Ahoy tell you what you can and can't eat.
That's not true. You should eat what you want wherever you can get it. But I do know that you in the past have baked some cookies that were pretty credible and I would even say awesome behind your back if it didn't make you gloat so much.
Yeah. You know why? Because that's because I practice, meaning that's the only cookie that's worth baking. I'm not going to make like pecan sandies because I wonder if I can. I made those cookies and they were good. Yeah. I'm fine. I'll just make, those are the cookies that I make. If there's ever a cookie that Andy produces, it's that chocolate chip cookie. And that's it.
Well, I'm okay. No, well, anyway, you're great at chocolate chip cookies, although I hate to say it to your face because people should just see the look on your face. You just get you think you're so much better than me.
Well, yeah.
I buy my cookies and you bake your cookies.
Well, no, that's not what I meant. I guess what it is because nobody gives a shit about my cookie. But like you could put the chocolate that you want. You can make them as big as you want. And the whole thing is like, I just want a cookie, but there's no recipe for a cookie. You got to make like 20. So anyway, that's what.
Well, here's the thing is you never have to worry about it if a cookie is big enough because you just get another one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a critical thing that a cookie's a large cookie. Just get another one.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, yeah. Well, how's it going? Speaking of, I guess not speaking of, but let's speak of making things, doing stuff. What do you got? What are you working on?
You know, here's what I decided. I do not like the way the economy is going. Okay. And I'm of a particular age that I have some money stuck away, a very small amount in a 401k. And in the last year and a half, almost 15% of it, I'm not riding the market. I've lost almost 15% just because of inflation. All right. So when they tell you the inflation rate is what it is, the reality of what my buying power is with my money, I've reduced my total value of buying power by over 15% or over. I don't even want to look. So by doing nothing, it's one thing if you invest your money and you lose it in the market, right? I mean, everybody expects a dip. You got to take your shots, right? But I didn't. I had it set aside and I still took a haircut and it pisses me off. And so where are you supposed to put your money?
Well, not your mattress.
Into classic
motorcycles. There you go.
Okay. To me, that's a much better bet. We've talked about this before. I hate signing my money up and sending it off to those Wall Street guys and those firms. And they're all supposed to, look after their job and not lie to their boss, which I'm pretty sure they're fucking around and lying to their boss anyway. And anyway, that whole thing is supposed to produce a secure retirement for me. Well, I'll tell you what's more secure than investing in some stock market bullshit. I bought a 1951 Ariel Square 4 motorcycle that is a solid value and will be a solid value as long as there are people around who value motorcycles. And how long do you think that will be?
Wow. Well, at least since 1954, sounds like.
Well, and when's interest in motorcycles going to die?
Yeah.
It's
when
not.
They're illegal. Wait, so you found, tell me what you found again. You found an Ariel. I know this bike.
Yes. Well, it's an exaggeration to say that I bought a bike. I bought some parts that might total a bike if I keep buying more parts. But I bought initially a 1951, I think it's a Mark I. It's a motor in a frame that used to be a chopper. And someone's taken the front end off and thrown it away. Thank God. But I got a box of some ancillary parts and a motor and a frame. And I have always wanted to have a Square 4. And this is kind of perfect for me too, because if you know me, if it was historically and perfectly correct, I'd be so bored with it and I'd be tempted to customize it and ruin it. And so now I have one that's already been ruined. And so now I'm free. All right. Well, I can do exactly what I want and not harm its value, or I can do exactly what I'm supposed to do and increase its value. I get to choose.
Well, so so there's not a lot of, I mean, what am I missing about the middle of Arizona? There's not a lot of aerials. You somehow find a lot of weird shit in the middle of the desert. And I'm very curious about how you're doing that. Where is this? Where did you find this, Ariel?
Well, this one is the magic of the internet and personal connections. So I was bemoaning my investment status to my friend, and I said, fuck these mutual funds and these fund managers. I'm going to buy. I wish I would have bought an Ariel Square 4 10 years ago. And my friend Sean said to me, he goes, "Oh, I know where there's one about 20 miles from my house, a basket case." And so that's kind of how it happened. Nice. So that was just the universe setting it up for me. So it isn't like I'm out barn finding in a clever way or more clever than other people. I just happen to become frustrated with the system. And now I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit out and do my own financial experiment. And along the way, I mean, it's like, when you own stocks or you have equities, you never get to play with them, right? You never get them out and go, look at this, I have shares,
Yeah.
What can you do? Yeah. Do you stack them up? Do you make a little card house out of them? But if you buy classic cars and motorcycles, you get to play with them. Now you can also fuck them up and really lose your ass on them. But in the meantime, you can play with them and then sell them when you're done. It's the best method.
I get this. I mean, I understand that completely of like, it's hard for me to put money away and then just forget about it. For me, it just feels like unfulfilled potential that you're going to use. And this is, by the way, we are not financial experts and do not take any of this as gospel or any, whatever the CYA is on that. But like, it's really difficult for me to like put money away and then know that it's there and not touch it. So like there's a bit of security in the 401k or the IRA that you can't touch. You know what I mean? Like you're legally obligated not to touch it, but the idea of squirreling money away and letting it sit and compound interest like seems right, but there's much more interesting ways to do that. Like you said, like, yes, whether it's sweat equity or whatever, but
also, at my age and my level of pessimism is that, what sparks the whole thing is not just the fact that I can't set aside money. I always rat hole money. I got little piles of money for little emergencies, and that's all this was. But after a while, I just grew frustrated with the fact that every investment that I have had in equities and stocks or whatever, I'm the last guy out when it's falling. Yeah. And I'm the first, and I'm also the last guy in when I'm the last guy always. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just tired of being last. And so I'm the first primary only complete investor in that 51 Ariel Square 4. And I don't have to split the profits with anybody. And if I lose money, it's because I made the wrong decisions. I don't have to hope that some MBA that's got an apartment and gets in a fight with his girlfriend that's going to somehow make the right decisions the following day at work. That guy's out of my life. All right. Mm-hmm. And what's into my life is one old shitty British motorcycle that's got a fabulous motor. Have you ever heard of Square 4 run?
No. And I was, as we were talking, I'm looking at it and that's they're exactly what I remember there. They're cute bikes, little pillion seat, kind of that crossover between the 30s and 40s and the sort of Brit cafe kind of stuff. No, I've never heard one, but
They're just remarkable. I mean, it's like British bikes in general, I've never been that attracted to the sound. And British bikes in general, I haven't ever been that attracted to owning, because I've ridden a few of them, and they're okay power, but they're always vibrated a lot. And I just never saw the magic of it, even though I like classics and archaic, old stuff, and I don't mind if you have to work your way through it. British bikes just never had that appeal to me. And I never really understood them, although the old ones were always very attractive. But I happened to be at a motorcycle show next to a guy that had a Square 4, and he started it up. And the depth of the sound and the smoothness of it was something I had never expected from a British bike. I mean, it's hard to explain. It's almost like, you remember the first time you heard a lion roar in person?
I understand.
I mean, how deep? I mean, it's a physical presence.
Where'd that come from? Yeah,
and it's moving. It's like, my God, I had no idea. But yeah, you can hear a lion roar on TV or in a show or on a documentary. You don't get the sense of it. You got to go to the zoo or go to the game park, and you got to hear that thing roar in person. And there's something about this Ariel 4. Look at them up on YouTube, and they still sound clacky. Just because the recording is difficult to get a good motor sound, which is something we should talk about, by the way. Cell phones. Listening to a motor on a cell phone is going to always make it sound like crap.
Yeah.
So anyway, so even on YouTube, you don't really get a good representation for it. But one of these days, you will be near one. You'll be near mine, and you're going to hear it, and you're just going to go, "That is so uncharacteristic." It's like, it's different than an inline 4, and it's just different, And so the sound of it was what brought me in. So refined, And so, I mean, I'm just so looking forward to getting this thing, down the road. So,
yeah. Well, so. Wait, so do you have it yet? Have you started working on it, or no? It's in.
No. I sent the money away for it, so I hope that there's some parts set aside for me
Sean
somewhere.
Has it, yeah.
Well, so my friend Sean went to collect it, and then so I've got to arrange to get out there and get it and bring it back. And get going on it. So, and then I have one other little thing that happened, because the universe was kind to me. We always talk about this, I deserve no kindness from the universe, believe me, but somehow I've received some. How we've talked about is that every now and then you stake yourself down to a project, or you take a risk and you stand on it. You go, this is what I'm going to do. And then somehow out of nowhere, other things begin to sort of yield. We've always joked about how Oprah understands this and I never did. But in the world of motorcycles, I get it. There's a secret. There's a universal, mysterious, spiritual secret that if you buy a motorcycle that needs parts, not long from now, you will find the parts.
They magically appear.
Right? So 3 days, 3 days after I buy this bastard Ariel, right? A guy right here in my town, and I live in a small town in southern Arizona, right here in my town, has got an older 60s Triumph roller, just motor frame, or not motor, just frame, and a seat and a tank and fenders, but basically all the British stuff I need to put together a British bastard bike, which is what I want to do out of the Square 4. So that became available right here to me in my town, $300, got everything. It's now sitting out here waiting for its aerial friend to come home, and then they are going to be forever joined.
Well, it might be somewhat of a reunion. We need to do a show on, because I think I've heard these as described as like two Triumph twins slapped onto each other, right? Like it's a Square
essentially.
Essentially
it is, and but it's worth just doing a little quick look up on Google to find somebody that shows you how the motor turns over, an animation or an actual motor, because the pistons rise and fall, and they're completely counterbalanced because there's two of them together. I mean, that's the magic of the Square 4, is that, I mean, everything you hate about a vibrating twin, this has doubled the mass, but now it's balanced. And so everything is, so they, the way they fire across. So it's two crankshafts, 4 pistons. It almost looks like the top of a dice with the 4 dots, right? I mean, on the side, dice, roll a 4 on the dice. That's what you're looking at. You got 4 holes arranged like that. Then the pistons rise and fall opposite of each other, front to back. and diagonally, and it just is inherently balanced. And so look at that, that's just going to be, of course, it's got its, I'm going to do some, try to do some other upgrades a little bit. We always struggle with electrics with British stuff, and so I'm going to try to find my way through some solution for that. And I'll have to learn from the Square 4 guys what else is lurking, but at the moment that's all I know. I always wanted one. I love the way they sound. I found a bastard, and then I found its bastard brother or sister. I don't know.
Maybe
that sounds awfully incestuous.
Well, so it's funny because I've been on the fence about a British bike, and it's just the tooling that like it feels like it's a whole other muscle set, or it's certainly a new tool set. But I sold a BSA that I had. I'm looking at an old AJS pile right now that I just can't make the logic connection. But now looking at this Ariel, like looking at a Square 4, I kind of feel like I need to find myself a British bike, Blaine's got one.
You could use one. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. Yeah. I like those little exposed chain, solo seat sort of little bobber things, but
well, the thing is, the only ones that there is an Ariel and a Triumph, and I believe a BSA. I like the little Ariels that that were part of the Air Force in World War II. I would love to find one of those. These were little 2-strokes. I forget what the model is. Somebody will chime in and tell us. But it was made to throw out of an airplane. It came in a little metal crate, and you parachuted with it behind enemy lines.
Oh, the flea. So I think the flea.
The flea, yeah, the flying flea. That's what it is.
Yes.
So I would love one of those. I could love a Triumph Cub.
But
those have been the only ones I've ever been interested in over the years until the Square 4 came along. So
Triumph, you start to get Triumphs are the British Harleys, right? So like just parts are so unnecessarily expensive in some case, like this weird sort of aura that I don't know, doesn't seem necessary, but I don't know, whatever. So I'm stoked to hear about the Ariel and see that come together. You'll have the ability to fabricate, I think, that together. You know what I mean? It sounds like you're not not scared by a frame and an engine sitting in a pile.
No, I don't mind cheating either. I'll use whatever it takes or make whatever it takes to make it work. So I'm not bound by having to make it original. Although, if I turn that direction some way, I know that there's probably a better resale in that regard. And if I decide I like to go in that direction, then I can always do that. So I'll try not to get myself in a corner. So
well, they look like you won't lose money on it.
No, I don't think so. And we'll see if the market is ready for a Square Ariel 4 resto mod. I don't know if they're ready for that or not, but we'll find out. So that's it. That's what I'm messing with. What do you got going?
Oddly enough, maybe across that smaller pond, I'm working on something Spanish. So I came prepared today. Like I have a whole thing. I have an Ossa Enduro 250 that I bought off eBay for, I don't know, less than $800. And I just happened to be going to San Antonio like 2 years ago. I saw it on eBay. I said, fuck it, I'll bid on it. Nobody else bid on it. I won it. And where is it at? It's in San Antonio. And so
you got it on the way. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. I got it on the way. Yeah, it was just like this whole thing where
which model
came together.
What model is it?
It's an Enduro. So it's not a Pioneer. It's not a Mar. It's an Enduro bike. I don't see many of them.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Like,
so the model is Enduro?
It's a 250 Enduro.
That's some clever marketing.
Yeah, it's just like, this is what you need. For that, this is what you need.
So I got this great little bike. It's called a 250 motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, you needed a motorcycle, so why not get the 250
it's just
motorcycle?
Genius. It's just genius naming motorcycle.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Enduro.
So I have a little bit of work to do on that, but I was having trouble with the carburetor because it's this old Amel carb and it's just a pain in the ass. I ditched it, got a new OXO. What are they? OXOs, the little Chinese ones. There's a guy that sells them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're I don't think they're. I think there's Chinese copies of those even, but I think the ones that the guy sells from like Midwest Trials, that guy.
Yes,
because he got me stuff for my Bultaco, and probably you have one on your Bultaco too, or you will, because it's a great carburetor. But anyway, yes, it's kind of a Mikuni knockoff of somebody's Mikuni deal, but he's got them set up that they work really good.
Well,
on those mid-sized 2-strokes.
So I called him. I said, "Hey, it's 250 Enduro." Da da da. He sent me one. I got it set up. It farted. That's great. It works, And then now electronics. I'm trying to chase all the electronics.
Wait a second. What year is it?
It is a 68.
68. Is it right side shift or is it left side shift?
It is.
I don't know about those.
You had to ask me. It is.
Yeah. You're not in front of it, so now you don't know.
Left side shift. It is left side shift.
Okay. All right. Just curious. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, so I was having a hell of a time because they have solid state ignitions. They don't have points. It's all electronic ignition, but they're the motoplats. And if you have a particular shape of pickup, then you have to have a particular color of coil. And if it's that kind of weird set thing. And so of course, it came with a red one and a blue one. And I don't know if the coil, I was chasing it, I'm like, what the shit. I had it, I was in Oklahoma and I had it in the living room in front of the TV. I'm watching reruns of The Office, eating Mexican food, working on this bike, doing wiring on this Enduro. It was, I love this bike so far. But I'm chasing this thing and I can't figure out, I'd get a spark. I wouldn't have a spark. I'd get a spark and then I'd get all excited and put some gas in it and get all ready and kick it over and nothing. And just, damn it, what is wrong with this thing? And the more I dug, and I was out there yesterday and I looked at it, spark plug's a little bit too long. Okay. So I dig it in, 14 millimeter gap. But I thought, well, if a spark plug's too long, it would hit the piston. Like you can't do that. What was happening was I'd get the electric set up. I'd kick it over and it'd spark, but it was too advanced and the spark plug's too long. It would backfire and shear the woodruff key. It's so strong that if I just kicked it, it would shear the woodruff key. So I replaced 3 woodruff keys on this bike, just trying to chase it. Anyway, so now I got the right size plug in there, kicked it over, fired it up, and it's horrifyingly amazing sounding. Like it's scary and beefy,
It's raucous.
It is. So that 2-stroke brap brap is like a brop on this one. Like it's just mean and and it. Anyway, I'm excited about it. It's such a beefy bastard, but I've committed to painting it. So now I got all the stuff off, and I can't ride it till I get all the tank and all painted and put back on.
Are you going to give it some relatively stock or factory colors, or is this going to be custom Rust-Oleum, whatever I can find job?
Customish, Rust-Oleum, whatever I can find. I would love to be able to do like pinstriping and the tape and do all the shapes that they used to do, but I'm going to do a simple little like forest green with the little white bottom, like a section off a panel at the bottom, paint it white, and then do a white fender, just real crisp, somewhat.
You have tank graphics? You got a tank badge or a tank graphic?
I have tank badges. So it came with tank badges.
That's what helps. You can always tell, like when we were kids, some guy would show up with some bike he's putting together and it'd always spray paint the tank. But then to put no stripes or no logo on it. So then you kind of knew it was a home built, So it's like, go ahead and just do the extra mile to collect some tank badges or, just a little bit of logo is kind of all it needs to set it apart. So,
well,
good on you.
Actually, so good segue. The Ossa logo?
Is it the 4-leaf clover?
Okay, so it is a 4-leaf clover resembling shape.
Okay.
But the logo of Ossa is actually an escapement. You know what an escapement is?
No.
Okay, an escapement is a mechanical contraption, like think about a clock's pendulum. So every time, you have this weight pulling down on a gear that's held in place by a ticker. And so
I always
every
thought
time
that was an escarpment. I'm mistaken on that. I thought it was escarpment.
Is it an escarpment? It starts with an E anyway. The escapement or escarpment. I thought it was escapement. I think it's escapement because it escapes. It ticks. Anyway, so that thing that when the pendulum swings, it moves the thing and that allows the gear to click once, and then it moves again, clicks again.
Yes.
So that thing that allows the gear to turn
ratchet.
Slowly, the ratcheting mechanism, that's called the escapement or escarpment, whatever. And that is what that 4-leaf clover actually is, because Ossa used to make film projectors. So when they were early on in Barcelona, their first products were film projectors and bicycles.
What a crazy company.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. Is there any chance, can you still find an Ossa projector?
I don't know. I imagine that's pretty unobtainium. We gotta get to Barcelona and go to some swap meets and find them.
Here's what we need to do now is that one, I'll probably have to get an Ossa. And then when we do, we're gonna have to get an Ossa projector, and then we need to find an Ossa factory film of the bikes being built, and we need to watch that film on the Ossa projector while eating Spanish food or Mexican food.
Tapas. Yeah, we'll have tapas. So they were Barcelona projectors and bicycles. That kind of blew my mind.
How come it looks like a 4-leaf clover then?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I think maybe they're just like, well, we like green. Yeah. It's totally a 4-leaf clover.
I like it. It looks good. I like it. I like everything about the way they look. So
yeah, well, they're super sexy, and it's kind of one of those. I guess they're just super masculine bike. All those are like the Ossa, Montesa, and Bultaco. I mean, Montesa you could argue a little bit more, but Ossa of the three sort of Spanish angels are like they seem to be the growliest. They were they won like championships in different sports. You know what I mean? They were Montesa's got its trials. Sort of history and championships, but Dick Mann on an Ossa, was it Mick Andrews? Mick Andrews is a trials guy. But anyway, so I don't know. Ossa is just kind of like the sexier of the three, right?
So basically what you're telling me, and this is perfect timing because we have to gender everything. You're telling me that the Ossa is most likely a hetero Spanish bike,
the cis male, Ossa,
and then the Montesa is quite possibly the transgender bike.
Not at all.
Is that what you're saying?
No, we actually need to do a whole show on Montesa because there's like just like the Italian stuff. There's all this like super fascinating family drama and Signor Bulto and whatever
yes.
And all that sort of shit that made the different companies. But if we had to gender them, I mean, I guess it fits because in Spanish, all of our nouns are gendered. So is it El Bultaco or La Bultaco?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Lobito.
That's all I want to know about that. Tell me more about the.
I think they were one of the ones who they stood out in that they were helping or letting the riders build the bikes. So like Dick Mann, Mick Andrews were having an influence on how the bikes are made.
That was such a golden age for having riders with factories and with sponsors and, doing their modifications and having the factories participate. It seems like especially the Euro guys were cognizant of the fact that if we're going to have an American presence and we're going to have an American guy race it, that presented an opportunity to them. So it seems like they at least followed it a little bit. So anyway, what happened to Ossa? Let's talk about the demise.
Yeah.
Or is there one?
So that was the thing is like back in the 70s, of course, everybody's selling everything to everyone. There's all the bikes, everybody. But, with that comes some consolidation. And then if you're not consolidated, what's that?
But can you imagine what we missed from 68 to 74 that you could say, I'm going to get a motorcycle. And you had choices, right? I mean, you had mainstream and how many choices did you have to get a cool bike, And now it's like, you're 15 years old and you're going to get a bike. What are you going to get if you live in America?
Well,
you're going to go down to there are no small dealers. There's no specialty dealers or manufacturers.
It depends on your style, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you fall into a Harley or Triumph, now it falls into either a Harley or Triumph or a Ducati or something. But
like for beginner bikes, your choice is to get a Chinese throwaway bike from Amazon or to get a Japanese bike from a dealership. That's all there is.
Well, yeah.
Well, there's KTM and, so there's a few Euro manufacturers that are around still, but not in any real sense where you can go to a dealership, drive down the street in a major city and think, oh, that's full of cool Euro bikes. I'll get one,
Yeah. Well,
so anyway,
well, I guess at the time you could, what drew you to a bike was performance and championship wins. I think that people still make that decision. Like, I'm going to buy a Ducati. I'm going to get a Panigale because it won this race last year. I don't know that really informs a lot of decisions these days. But like, if you had an Ossa Mick Andrews replica, you could trials the shit out of anything in your neighborhood, like, or anywhere. It was his bike.
And so I never once bought a motorcycle because it had heritage or it was successful racing. I bought it because it was a cool color. It had a cool sound. Or it was a shop near my house where I could get stuff when I broke it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that was their demise. So you have these bikes in the world all over the place, and they have no support network. There's no dealer or, there's no like concerted, organized network of parts dealers, people who know how to work on things. And though all those bikes were not without their quirks, right?
Right.
So, you couldn't Google it, but,
well, especially when you were young and like, if you bought this bike as an enduro, so it was going to be a trail bike or a bike that you rode to high school. What does a high school kid know about taking care of a bike? I mean, so it gets crashed, it gets neglected. And so there's going to be stuff that it's going to need. And then I guess that's where the term orphan bike came from, right? I mean, it was all those companies. By the time the late 70s and early 80s came around, they were gone. You were hunting for parts by phone and looking through classified ads in what used to be called a newspaper to try to find somebody that had some of this stuff laying around. And then you were orphaned. You had a bike that you were never going to find that ignition for that Ossa before the internet and before eBay. So you had no choice but to part it out or leave it next to your lawnmower in the garage.
Or spray paint it.
Well, yeah.
So in 1982 they went bankrupt. But then I didn't realize this. They came back. They reopened in 2010. Like, so some fancy Spanish businessmen said, we will make this again.
Did they make electric bikes? No.
That's Bultaco. They did. I have a whole story about that. But so Ossa came back online. They started doing trials, motorcycles, but with some modern stuff. They may have made an electric bike. But I don't know whatever modern technologies is in a trials sense, but you see these guys like jumping over, 12-foot boulders onto a balancing board, like those crazy trials bikes. Those are associated with a company called Gas.
Oh yes. I love Gas.
Okay. Well, in 2014, Ossa merged with Gas. Okay. I didn't know that. And then Gas was bought out by a company called Torrot, Torrot. But they were like, thank you very much for the Gas. No thank you to the Ossa. They took Gas, no Ossa, so they shut down again.
Wouldn't it be sort of like a fantasy to get a group of guys together to revive one of these old companies? And I really wouldn't care which one, but just what if a group of enthusiasts could get back together? And I'm sure the rights are way more expensive than, just to get Ossa back as a name probably has got a pretty big value attached to it. But you just wish it would lay abandoned for a while. And then we said, let's remake Ossa, and just the passion that would ignite and people going, okay, here's what you should do. And you give a chance to people to relive the past and then kind of, want to do the upgrades or whatever. I'm just fascinated by these leftover marks. But I'm almost always disappointed when they get revived because they seem to really stray from their heritage, and then pretty soon it's got a Chinese motor in it. And there you go. I mean, that's the age of today is you can't revive a motorcycle company without building the motors in China. So, which
I feel like we need to do something in sort of in depth about what a Chinese motor is, because we do kind of shit on it a lot, but there is some, not without reason, not without merit. I think there is a lot to shit on, but I think there is some robust, enough quality motorcycles coming out of China, like the Lifan motors, like just something like that aren't,
in reality. Yes. I mean, we kind of crap on them because they started out so horrible, but the truth is that at this point, is a Lifan motor as good as an original Ossa motor is for hours? I mean, how many hours can you ride it? Yeah, I mean, very likely. So you're right. It's probably unfair characterization. But what it is, it just means that part of the story of, especially the Euro manufacturers, I just always pictured a family in a garage, or a bunch of biker guys getting together after work, and drinking and starting to make the first batch of Ossas, to go to a race, or the Swedish guys making some Husqvarnas, and I mean, all of those were, small companies that started, and well, not Husqvarna, that was a big firearms manufacturer, but anyway, I just picture that it was kind of this very passionate exercise. And so then you think, oh, then we went to China and got a motor. Well, that's just like, probably when I was a teenager, if you wanted a car and wanted it to run most of the time, you probably should have just bought a Ford Taurus, but whoever said, oh, thank God I got a Ford Taurus, but it probably was a decent car to drive around and got you where you needed to go and probably lived a better than normal life in terms of longevity. But, there's just nobody that loves it and said, wow. And that's how I always felt about Chinese motors. It's like, it's not a square four motor. It doesn't have a great characteristic to it. But yeah, if you want to put something in a like if your Honda 90 dies, would I buy a Lifan motor? In a minute?
Yep.
Bolt it in, $300 later, 2 hours later, you're riding. And it'll probably, I don't know, if it doesn't even matter if it lasts as long as a Honda. It was $300.
Yeah. Let's do it again.
Just get 3 of them every time you get them, so.
Well, so just wrap up, I misspoke and you beat me to it, but yes, Ossa did start making electric bicycles, but I think it's kind of down low. With I know Bull Taco was making
they're out
bikes, but
they've misinterpreted their history. They're just not paying attention to it. It's now it's a bunch of young Spanish guys with man buns that sit around and think they're very metro like, and they're got their electric bikes out, and they're gonna talk about sustainability. Fuck those guys. I want an Ossa with a 2-stroke motor in it. That's a beefy, throaty thing. I will not follow Ossa if they make electric city bikes.
Well, I'm on the, I go back and forth on that because I get it. I get that's where the market is or market's going. And I think that there's relevance in that, but I don't, if you took all the badges and the paint off, would it be anything different than a rad power bike made in Seattle? Anything different than the Bull Taco bike? Like there's nothing, it is literally a torquey motor with knobby tires. And at that point, sure, that's perfectly fine. But you don't need to be Ossa to do that.
Why take such a great name? Why don't you just call it Roger? Yeah, just call it. I got a name for it. Motorbike. Just call it motorbike. All right, and ride it around. But don't pretend that it's some sort of great heritage bike and that it won the 6 days enduro or that some great legendary rider campaigned it. Yep. So, all right, rant over.
It's true. Well, let's wrap our Ossa bit there. I'm interested in the Ariel. I'm going to dig in some more, and I may have to just find myself a little BS. I fell in love with the idea of a British bike the first time I saw a Matchless. That's the bike that I saw. And it wasn't even the whole bike. Everything about it was beefy, and it was just like this big, robust bike. But what got me was the triple trees. So the clamp on the top of the forks was so the term that I thought of was like, you know, in the Scottish accent, it was British steel. You know what I mean? Like, it was just this massive, unnecessary hunk of metal with some holes in it to hold the forks. And it's just like, that's not going anywhere.
You know, what's funny is that we look at that as strength and you know, and it attracted you to it. But yet when I see the same thing on a Harley, I just go, what a stupid, overweight boat part, you know? But you're right. You're right.
Well, there's definitely some grace in a Matchless that doesn't exist in a Harley, or maybe a different, whatever. I'm just whatever.
Well, you know what it is that probably anything pre-1950 is charming, you know, and I would love it. I wouldn't care. I mean, I expect them to, you know, vibrate. I expect them to leak. I expect you have to tinker with them. That's part of the whole charm, and I would love that. And I hope that Square 4 does that for us, you know, for me. But what I'm not interested in is when the bikes got into the Brit bikes, when they got into the 60s, became less interesting to me. And by the time they got into the 70s, it's just like, I don't even want to look at them. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Those are man buns, British man buns. Okay, well, with that, let's wrap it.
Send me a quick vid of the Ossa running. I got to hear it.
I will do.
All right. Okay.
Bye.
This podcast is produced and edited by Hole in the Head Moto. Find us on the socials at Hole in the Head Moto and see our website holeintheheadmoto.com for more info, swag, and pictures of projects. You can help this little show by subscribing and even leaving a review. It's a huge help and we appreciate it. See you next time.